Hi everyone, Flaming Footy here and welcome back to another YouTube video on the channel. And today guys, we are going to be continuing our AFL 2022 3-game match reviews. Now yes, here we are for another 3 games, and I'll tell you 3 more massive games that we had here. We learned a lot more about the finals because again, most of these teams, or all of them, well most of them are trying to compete for finals, and some others are trying to make sure that teams aren't getting into finals. And we had 3 absolute crackers here, and we learnt a lot, as we always traditionally do. So the games that we had were Gold Coast vs Richmond, St Kilda vs Fremantle, and Port Adelaide vs GWS. So not going to waste any time. These were the later games on the Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, Saturday twilight. Started off Gold Coast vs Richmond, Metricon Stadium, ripping game of footy. Alright, so to Metricon Stadium we go, and I'll tell you, this is comeback of the year. We haven't already seen it. This is comeback of the year. I'll almost guarantee that. Gold Coast 14-10-94, get over the Tigers 13-14-92. A kick after sign by Noah Anderson helps his team get the job done and puts himself in the history books. What a game of footy this one was, and the Tigers, they'd won it at one stage, and I think they got to, I think they just got, they were very happy with how they'd gone up by 40 points in the third quarter and still leading by close to 30 at the final change. And then, yeah, it was just after the sign where the Suns did it. And the Tigers, they were good. The Suns were good in the first quarter, but then in the second quarter, they gave nothing as the Tigers went on to their 40-point lead. They did show signs of a fight back in the third quarter, but not enough. They were still down by around that 30-point mark. And then they come back. The Tigers wrestle momentum back to still be up by 20 points. And the Suns just kicked the last 1, 2, 3, 4 goals of the game to seal your deal. And it was absolute scenes at Metricon Stadium. Absolute scenes. And the Suns, what a young team. They're still trying to keep the door open for finals. Richmond now, all these teams just sit 1 game behind them outside the 8. This was a really good chance to lock themselves away. And yet another disappointing performance by this team. Now, they have had a few disappointers, which was against the Cats, and this one definitely, to cough up a lead this big is something really serious and not very good. And they just thought the game was over when they led by 40 points. But the Suns showed spirit and fight, and that's what a comeback needs all of to win. So they did a really good job with the comeback. Daniel Rioli, 31 disposals, 3 goals for Shai Bolton, 141 fantasy for Noah Anderson, and 11 tackles for Matt Rao. But the Suns, they just did all the hard work, and it was made off some Richmond errors as well. Richmond were inaccurate, so they could have had the game well on their terms and probably should have won, but they were robbed by the Suns. And what a win it is, though, for the club. Noah Anderson, 141 fantasy, 130 for Ainsworth, 108 for Rioli, and Bolton, 106 for Miller, 105 for Ellis, 104 for Witts, 103 for Bowes, 96 for Swallow, 95 for Rao. That's plenty of Suns players there getting in. Now, 3 goals for Bolton and Scholl, as well as Revolt. Cumberland actually played pretty well with the 2 goals. 3 came in, made a bit of an impact, as well as the 10 disposals for him. 2 goals for Anderson and Ainsworth, and then 1 for everybody else. Now, Rioli had 31 disposals, 29 for Bolton, getting in on the act, 27 for Miller, you know he does it week in, week out, 26 for Ellis, Anderson and Ainsworth, 24 for Bowes and Prestia. Now to marks. Wow, 14 for Ainsworth, 11 for Ballard, 9 for Anderson, 8 for Ellis, Bowes and Broad, 7 for Collins and Swallow. Those are some really hefty numbers for the Suns players. 11 tackles for Matt Rao, 8 for Jack Graham, 7 for Anderson, as well as Arts, and then 4 for some others. 39 hitouts for Witts, 18 for Nankervis and Soldo, 2 for Day. Richmond got smashed in the hitouts industry. They did go inside 50 more times than the Suns, but the Suns did have a little bit more of the ball. The Tigers opting to go handball rather than kick. And then hitouts was, again, in favour of the Suns. Clearances were relatively even, though. What else have we got? Marks. The Suns did have 16 more marks than the Tigers, but again, still relatively even. The Tigers led for the majority of the game, and they absolutely got robbed, and they just made way too many errors and thought the game was theirs until it wasn't. And the Suns, this is a fantastic win. This is a brave win, and the door is still open to make finals. And Richmond now are vulnerable, just like St Kilda were. They are all of a sudden vulnerable. Now to a really important Saturday night game where St Kilda 10-10-70 couldn't overcome the Dockers 17-9-111 at Marvel. And again, for the Fremantle Dockers, it's been the trend of the season for them. The third quarter is what sealed the deal. So that they were good, were the Dockers. But the Saints did have them way under their belt until half-time. And I would say the Saints were the better of the sides for the first two quarters. Even though it was relatively even, but I'd still say the Saints were the better. Third quarter, the Saints kick 2 goals, the Dockers kick 7. And that is where the game is lost for the Saints. And when it is around 25 points, yes, you can come back from there. It's not impossible, but it does get pretty hard to come back. And look, they spent like a whole quarter of the final quarter, nothing happened. And you don't come back when that happens. The Dockers just kick 3 goals to seal your deal, and then another one late when the Saints only managed just a singular. But what a game of footy this one was for the Dockers. We know they haven't played the best at Marvel. This was going to be a testing game, and the Saints possibly were even the favourites. It was really 50-50, but maybe even more the Saints went in favourites. But the Dockers, this is a really important performance, which really does show they are top 4 worthy. They do play a lot of their remaining games at this very venue, so this performance is really important, and it's going to really show how they go at this venue later on. They do face some tough teams here, but this is a team that is contending for the finals. I feel like after this, the Saints are potentially out after this performance because they lost by 41 at their home grounds. Brayshaw with 36 disposals, 3 goals for Fife, 10 tackles, and 144 fantasy for Andrew Brayshaw. I reckon he's the favourite for the Brownlow medal right now. Yeah, the 144 fantasy and the goal. The 121 fantasy for Steele. You know he does it every week. 109 for Sinclair, 107 for Battle, 106 for Crouch, 103 for Clark, 102 for Marshall, 98 for Schultz. It was these small forwards, and the pressure that the Dockers brought was amazing. 3 goals for Fife and Frederick, 2 goals for Banfield, Lobb, Membry, King, Butler, Schultz, Brody, and Darcy. Now to disposal, we go 36 for Brayshaw and the goal. He is definitely the best, one of the best young players in the league. And he will win a Brownlow. Whether it be this year or not, he will definitely be winning a Brownlow in his time in the AFL. And I reckon it could be this year as well. He's been one of the best players in the league by far. 30 disposals for Crouch as well, as to Clark, 29 for Brody, 28 for Steele and Hill, 27 for Sinclair, Jones and Battle, 25 for the young gun in Sarong, 11 marks for Battle, 9 for Cox, 8 for Steele, Membry, Marshall and Young. Tackles now, 10 for Brayshaw, 7 for Steele, 6 for Crouch and Butler. Hitouts, 27 for Darcy, 23 for Ryder, 14 for Marshall, 4 for Lobb. Now to team stats we go, where the Saints did go inside 50 more times than the Dockers, but I'll tell you this, the Dockers were very efficient when going inside 50. They went inside, I think, 14 times in the third quarter and got 11 scoring shots. That's really good. That's really good. And centre clearances were well in favour of the Saints, but then stoppage were well in favour of the Dockers. Marks were even. And same was time in front. The Saints control the first half, the Dockers control the second half. And the biggest margin is the winning margin of 41 points. I don't really think anybody saw that this side was going to win by 41 points at Marvel. And this is a really, really, really solid performance. And for the Saints, this could just about be the blow that says season over. Their season is hanging by a thread right now. And even though, yes, they are still like a game equal with the Tigers, but just with their run home and just the degree of difficulty, the way they've been playing is just, it's not a finals worthy side. And the Dockers, they're trying to lock away a top 2 spot, which is definitely doable. Now to the Adelaide Oval we go, where it was a Todd Marshall and Connor Rosie show for Port Adelaide. Port Adelaide 12-12-84, smashed the Giants 3-11-29, and the Giants only managing to put up 3 goals is very poor. And Mark McVeigh's job as coach is also looming, as well as Clarko could be the perhaps replacement for him. But this is just a devastating performance. They came here earlier to the Adelaide Oval and smashed the Crows by, more than 55. And then they come back and do this. And this just goes to show that Port Adelaide are still trying for finals. And Port Adelaide weren't great in the second half either. It was their first half that won the game for them off the back of some good stuff. And Rosie and Marshall, in the first half, were electric. But yeah, it was a really big game of footy, this one, for the Power. And they were the better of the sides. They already had around a 40 point lead at half time, and you know from there that it's over. The Giants had only kicked 2 goals at half time. The third quarter was actually, well, the Giants actually won the quarter, believe it or not. But they were just it was a very boring last part of the game. Then the final quarter, the Power just put a few finishing touches on the game. Now, they did miss out on a little bit of an opportunity for more percentage than what they did, but the Giants were inaccurate, and maybe if they were a little bit more accurate, could have kept themselves in the game. Or not could have kept themselves in the game, sorry. Well, they could have, but they also could have scored a lot more than 29, because 29 as a team score is pretty disappointing. And then it was Stephen Canello with 32 disposals, 4 goals and 125 fantasy for Connor Rosie, and the 7 tackles for Tim Taranto. But again, it was all dominance by Port Adelaide, and if they want to make finals, this is a pretty decent performance. 116 fantasy for Canello, 125 for Rosie, 101 for Taranto, 100 for Power Pepper and Farrell, 99 for Butters, 95 for Ward, 93 for Kelly, 93 for Hogan, 90 for Finlayson against his former side, 88 for Dixon, 87 for Wines, 84 for Himmelberg. But every time Port Adelaide, whether it doesn't really matter who the player was, they just looked dangerous. And whenever the Giants got it, they had no danger at all. Rosie kicked 4 goals, 2 for Hogan. He was their only multiple goal scorer for the Giants. 2 goals for Marshall as well as Farrell. And then the only other Giant goal came from Toby Green, with a fair few other Giants having pretty inaccurate nights in front of the big sticks. But yeah, it was a pretty good night for Port Adelaide. 32 disposals for Canello, 27 for Kelly, 26 for Butters, 25 for Power Pepper, 24 for Boak, Rosie, Marks, 10 for Power Pepper, 9 for Ward, and Hogan, 8 for Farrell. Tackles now, 7 for Taranto, 5 for the following: Wines, Rosie, Farrell, Lloyd, Canello, and Kelly. Hit-outs now, 29 for Flynn. Finlayson and Dixon both had the 13 each. They both shared the ruck duties. 4 for Himmelberg, 1 for Wines, Green, and Hogan. Now the tackles, just team stats. The Power had a heap more of the footy, went inside 50 way more times than the Giants. The Giants only went inside 50 37 times for the game. And let's see. The free kicks didn't really decide the factor a lot in this one. It was 12 apiece, not really a lot of free kicks given out. The Giants did win in the hit-outs, but clearances was all one-way traffic. And then again, Marks inside 50, Port Adelaide, they just played with so much ease. It was really easy for them. They led for basically the whole game and definitely deserved to. They laid way more tackles and were just way better of the side, way better of the sides. And this is a big performance if they want to make finals. So now to the day, Sunday of footy, Brisbane versus Essendon. The Gabba does actually loom as a bit of a danger game for Brisbane. They've got plenty of outs. The Bombers are pretty fresh. The Hawks and the Crows should be an absolute cracker, can go either way. The Eagles and the Blues, as I've said again, another danger game for the Blues. The Eagles have been off some fresh form and do have the potential to win this one. Now to the ladder we go, where it is currently the Cats still on top of the table, the Demons and the Dockers all equal on 48 points. And if the Lions win today, they'll go equal on 48 points as well. Collingwood are on 44, waiting the result of Carlton, whether Carlton will come up on 44 as well. The Swans sit in 6th currently with a spot in the 8. The Tigers are only in the 8 on percentage, but a lot of it. They're up by 12% over the Saints. And then the Doggies, the Suns, and the Power are all a game outside the top 8. And it is anybody's race. But again, though, next week's results do mean a lot, which we're actually going to have a little look at next week. Round 18, the Doggies and the Saints. This looms as the biggest game of the rounds. The winner, gets a jump skip on the other. And if the Saints win, they could temporarily, they would temporarily go into the 8, awaiting other results. Crows and the Pies, the Giants and the Lions. Then the Roos and the Tigers. Now, you may be going, flaming footy, this is going to be a horrible game. Well, it does mean a lot for the Tigers. Roos are in a little bit of form. Played all right against Collingwood. The Blues and the Cats does mean a massive lot, as does the Dockers and the Swans, both on Saturday night. Then we've got the Demons and the Power and the Bombers and the Suns, both meaning a lot as the run home continues. So, that is going to wrap us up for another 3-game match reviews. It was an absolute ripping round of footy that we've had so far. 3 absolute ripping games. And yes, I'm looking forward to see how these 3 games go. May not be the most interesting, but for the teams like Brisbane and Carlton, still mean a lot. And Essendon, Hawthorn, Adelaide, West Coast still playing for respectiveness and trying to knock out teams playing for the top 8, trying to make a respectable season. There is still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rounds to go after this. It's blown wide open, the race for finals in the top 4, and other teams can still get a pretty decent run. They can still end up on 28, 32 points if they travel alright as well. So we can have some teams making respectable seasons. But anyway, thank you guys all so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. See you guys when I miss another video on the channel. Thank you guys all so much for watching. So bye everyone. Flaming Footy out.